couldn't hit the button.
I well,
Hello, everybody.
Hi everybody. I just Gary, I was trying to also say hello and to everybody and the keyboard's like jumping around and it's like typos and so Gary said his was jumping around too. So anyway, hi
Hello,
everybody.
prospecting. Hello, Catherine. Let's see who else is stacking up in here. Gary. Tammy, yes, I think the world of you too.
Yeah.
So no, my fingers they just wouldn't hit the mouse. So and that's why I was like deer in headlights when it came on.
Yeah.
Hey, D. Crosley and Crystal.
Roger.
I was looking at Reese's peanut butter cups for April. So I was thinking about getting a box. So hopefully Bigfoot don't steal them.
I know. Oh, Aussie. Wow, there's a lot of yay.
And Catherine. Yes. So what we got going on tonight?
Well, tonight we have John Stasko. He is I think he's pretty well known. He's been around. He told me he's been researching for over 50 years, which is
I know him from somewhere. I told you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, you probably do. He's a popular speaker on cryptid in cryptid conferences. So, in that circuit. So maybe that's maybe that's where you've seen him. But he's going to tell us about some of his UFO abductions tonight. Yes. And how they possibly correlate with Bigfoot, which is it's exciting. Yes. Yeah. And you know what, Grizzly, I'm working on something with Kath and Michelle that about this, not so much about a UFO, but it's about no, it's good stuff. About an orb that I got on camera. But I'm like, before I show this to anybody, I want to check with a bunch of people. So I'll let you know what I find out on that. But let's bring John in. Yeah.
John, come on down. Welcome, sir.
Hi, how you doing? Good morning or afternoon, wherever you're at.
That's right. We're worldwide, so it is night in UK. So yes, absolutely. And I don't know what time it is in Japan right now. So, but yes.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Who knows? So let me tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I've been doing paranormal investigations of all types for over 55 years now. I'm 71 and a half. I get around a lot. I belong to many groups. I'm an admin and a group expert in a lot of these groups, as well as members of a lot of groups. But I want to say something as a disclaimer before we get started. I've seen a lot of groups on Facebook where everybody talks about they're experts. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm called an expert, but that's just a Facebook designation for somebody who's more knowledgeable about a certain particular subject in the paranormal. I call myself an explorer of the unknown, period. That's it. Because there are no true experts in this field, none. Okay. At least in the private sector, or well, I should say the civilian sector. Okay. Mm-hmm. Who knows what the government has? But anyhow,
that's
right.
Okay. The other thing I would like to say too is everything I do, I've done for free. I don't charge for any speaking engagements. I don't charge for any investigations. I don't put out anybody's name that doesn't want to have it put out. Confidentiality is a big thing because in this field, a lot of people get derided, put down, whatever, called nutcases, liars, hoaxers, and everything else. Yeah. And I try to do my best to maintain their anonymity when I can. The other thing I like to say is about people who push books, who never go out in the field, who don't do what they do. You can be armchair researchers. I don't have anything against that. I don't have a problem with some people trying to make a buck off a book. But if you're going to call yourself an investigator or a Bigfoot experiencer, you better darn well have some kind of experience to talk about. Okay. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I'm going to first start this off with nothing related to Bigfoot or UFOs, but I just want to give you a little something funny, a little tidbit I had. As I said, I did a lot of different investigations, one of which was vampires. And I mentioned this a while back. I got a call some years ago when I belonged to another group that's pretty well known, but became disbanded after a while for some unknown reason. But my man in charge of the group asked me to take this case. Now, when I was in this group, we primarily did UFOs and Bigfoots, and we stayed away from cult kind of cases, those type of things, ghosts and stuff like that. But I would take anything. And so they used to call me, basically, some of my friends that call me the Indiana Jones of this group because I would take anything. I don't have a problem with it. So anyhow, I get this call from my director, and he says, John, he says, we got a case up in Wilkes-Barre, PA.
Oh, wow.
Of a woman that said her daughter saw something out their window, and what she described was a vampire. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Nosferatu, the original one, or Salem's Lot, but the newer movie with David Solon. But anyhow, so I called my co-investigator, Devin, to go up, and I said, okay, I'll go. Now, it's winter time, you know, I got the call about 9 o'clock at night or so, maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I called my co-investigator, Devin, and he had to work. So I had to go by myself. So I drive all this way to go up to Wilkes-Barre. Now, when I get up there, I find out through the directions I have that this lady's a nurse. She has a 10-year-old daughter. They live about an eighth of a mile off road on a Red Dog Road to a big old brick farmhouse with a wraparound porch. So and it's snowing and raining all the way up. So when I get up there, I see fog rolling across the ground. I'm 6'4", and this ground fog is almost knee height. And anyhow, so it's snowing, raining, thundering, and lightning at the same time. I mean, you couldn't imagine a worse scenario for a horror movie, or better, I should say.
Yeah.
So I drive up this, and I'm getting more trepidatious as I go. And the only thing I took with me was a homemade set of wooden stakes. Okay, I've never been on a vampire case before that. I took some holy water, a stun gun, and that's about it. So I had a 1,000,000-volt stun gun. So I go up and I knock on the door, and it wouldn't have surprised me if Vincent Price or Bela Lugosi or Boris Karloff would have answered the door, because that's just how it was. So anyhow, make a long story short, I went in and I talked to the mother, and it's a 3-story brick farmhouse. The nearest tree is about 100 feet away. There's no trellis on the side of the house whatsoever. So the little girl's room, believe it or not, is on the 3rd floor of this big brick farmhouse. Oh, wow. Now, I said, well, I'm going to talk to you first and your daughter. I want you to draw pictures of what you saw. So the mother drew a picture, and I swear it looked just like the movie from Nosferatu, the vampire. So I said, well, I'm going to talk to your daughter. Daughter drew me a picture too, very similar to her mother's, but not quite as good because she's 10 years old. So I said, take me up to your room. So she took me up to the room, and it's, again, 3 stories up. Anyhow, so I go up there, and I look out the window, and there's, like I said, there's not a tree. The closest tree is about 100 feet away. So I said, I'm going to walk around the back of the house. So I walked around the whole house to make sure no one could have climbed up there. There's no balloons that could be lifted up there. The little girl said somebody had knocked on her window, 3 stories up. Oh. So I go back in the house, and I said to the lady, I said, look, I'm going to walk down around the property. I said, what's that over the hill down there? She goes, a cemetery. I went, what? Jiminy Christmas. So I said, okay, right. So I said, I'm going to walk down there. So she goes, you're serious? I said, yeah, I have to. So again, now it's stopped thundering and lightning at this point, but the fog's rolling across the ground just like this. Okay, I'm like, geez, almost my knee height. So I walk down, and these stones are like from the late 1600s, 1700s. They're old, they're falling over, there's weeds growing everywhere. If a vampire would have jumped up out of the ground right now, I probably would have crapped my pants. But anyhow, so I walked around her for about 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. And I walked back to the house. I talked to the mother and her daughter again. I said, look, I'm going to sit on your porch for a few hours. She says, okay. So she's going to make me a thermos of coffee. So I said, okay. So she made me a thermos of coffee. I'm sitting on the end of the porch, mind you. Now it's real quiet, but that fog's rolling across the ground. Mm-hmm. I'm like, so I got the holy water here, the stun gun next to it, and the stakes right there too. And I have this something called a Q-beam, which is a real powerful flashlight, 500,000 candle power. I could have lit up something 2 miles away with this thing. Anyhow, so I'm sitting there, and maybe about a half hour, 45 minutes, and I hear a noise behind me. And I don't want to look. Oh. So I'm thinking, well, I was a lot younger back then. Okay, this is about 1992, I believe, 92. And like I said, I'm 71 and a half. Like I said, I'm not a little guy. I was even bigger back then. I mean, I lost some weight since then. But anyhow, so I'm thinking to myself, if a vampire's behind me, I'm going to give him hell before he takes me out. And maybe I'll let him bite me this way I can live forever. I don't know. Anyhow, so I turn around real quick, and what do you think I see? There's a deer eating some kind of plants on the side of the house. Well, immediately my sphincter relaxed. I was fine. Okay. And I went back in the house. I told the lady, I said, look, I'm going to bless your house. I know how to bless houses. I also know how to use sage and holy water and the right prayers to use for evil spirits and demons. I know how to chase ghosts out of the house, by the way, and all that kind of stuff. But anyhow, from long practice. So anyhow, hi people. And so After I did that, I said, look, if there's any problems, you give me a call. It should have taken care of the problem because I believed at that point it was a supernatural entity. There's no other explanation for it. The woman's a nurse. The daughter's 10. What's she going to make up a story like this? Anyhow, so that was my one and only vampire case. Okay, let's move fast forward. Okay, I'm going to start with UFOs. All my life, since I was 5 years old, I've seen UFOs. I've seen them 9 times in my life, all with witnesses, all of them. The first time I saw was with my father, who was a chief of police where I lived. I was 5 years old. Now, my dad was really into law enforcement for almost 60 years, I guess, 50 or 60 years. And I went outside with him one day. I'm 5 years old, and we lived close to this thing called a slade dump, where they dump a lot of ash over the years. It's a big open area about a quarter mile across. And I looked and I saw this big round object, I would guess by my memory, 100 feet in diameter, had a light like a fluorescent type of light. I said, look, Daddy, what's that? He goes, ignore it, John. I thought that was pretty strange later on, when I grew older, that my dad would say that because he's in law enforcement. That began to what I remember. I also got what's called a scoop mark on my right ankle. Scoop marks are notorious for people who have been abducted. Okay. I got it when I was 5. It's still there. Later on in life, I got when I was 39, identical on my right wrist. Okay. So I'm going to move forward. May 30th, 1990, my first wife and I, my hobby's astronomy, one of many I have, by the way, archaeology, history, you name it. But I'm into everything. At my age, you might as well learn as much as you can. Anyhow, so I'm riding with my wife in my Jeep CJ7. I had the top off May 30th, 1990 at 9 p.m. at night on this ridge, California Ridge Road. It's pretty deserted. Now there's houses up there now, and I go back there maybe once a week just on the chance I might see something again. I always carry a camera. Always carry a camera after that. Anyhow, so we're riding along, and I'm showing my 2 children in the back, John and Heather, the constellations. My wife's pregnant, my first wife. She's passed away since then, but I'm married again. But anyhow, so my wife says, no, we're on the high point of the ridge. Now I have 7 pictures of this thing I got, close up. Wow. Close up and personal. They're unretouched. They're not CGI generated. They're real. Okay. And I'll share them with your group. I can't do it tonight because I don't know how to send it out on this stuff. But anyhow, I'm kind of technologically ignorant as far as that goes. But anyhow, I was lucky to get this. But anyhow, so my wife says, John, we know what those constellations are. What's that behind us? So as I said, I'm on the high point of the ridge. I look back. Now my Jeep has 13 kc off-road light. Because I used to go off-road a lot in a winch in the front to pull myself if I ever got stuck, which I never have. But anyhow, I see these lights behind the tree, about 300 feet away or so. And they're really, really bright. So my first thought's what? It's another off-road vehicle like mine, because we have a lot of kids around there that was riding around, going off-road partying, going out with, with their girlfriends, whatever. So I stopped the vehicle and I watched. Now the lights start doing this. About that speed. So my next thought, because the wind's behind my back blowing toward it, is a helicopter, because I'm trying to make logic out of it. So I'm like, okay, now it clears the trees. And at that distance, it was, these 2 lights were on it. It was so bright, I couldn't look directly at it. I'm doing this at 300 feet away. So I run back to the Jeep. By that time, I was about 20 feet from the back of the Jeep. I got my camera. Now, as I'm standing there, this thing clears the trees and I'm doing this. It's so bright and it starts moving toward me really slow. I'm on the high point of the ridge right here. I'm sorry, wrong hand. This one. Anyhow, I'll get it. Anyhow, so this thing has to rise up to where I'm at to clear. So it's coming toward me and my wife and kids are screaming. And I start walking toward it. Just so you know, I'm not afraid of anything on this planet at all. Nothing. What I've seen in my life, I figure it this way. I have a guardian angels. I have several, or I've had nervous breakdowns, I'm sure. But anyhow, I try to keep light of everything. But here's the thing. So as it's getting closer, my wife and kids are screaming. I walk 75 feet back toward it. And the reason I know, I marked this the next day. Okay. So as it's coming closer and closer, my wife and kids are getting more upset and terrified. And I'm very sad that I did that. Not sad because I shouldn't have never done that. But my only thought was, what the heck is this thing? Mm-hmm. So it gets closer and it's almost on top of me at this point. And I'm getting bathed in like an orange light. But the lights are so bright and I'm doing this. But I got the camera in this hand. So I raised the camera and I hit the flash. It was 400 film, by the way. And I have the 7 shots, and I have the original negative. Anyhow, so when I did, the lights went off. There was a hemispherical dish about 50 feet in diameter. The reason I know how big it was is because the next day, again, as an investigator, I measured the width of the road and how big it was compared to the road. This thing was orange at this point, and I'm being bathed in orange heat, and it's like radiating down like this on me. My wife and kids are screaming now. I'm, like I said, 75 feet or so from the back of the Jeep. So finally, I started taking pictures. Now, there was landing gear on it, but the landing gear aren't what you think, like tripods. They were like, if I take my 2 fingers like this and go up into it, the sides and the back like this, in the front and the back. So when it was on the ground, it was like this, I guess, but it went like this. So I tilt the camera up to take more pictures. As I did, at this point, it's about 15 feet or so above me. It tilts down like this. And when it did, I could clearly see 3 windows in this thing. Oh, wow. One on either side. The windows weren't square. They were more like a sort of an oblong shape. 2 were the same size, one on either end, which is, I would estimate, about 2.5 to 3 feet. And the one in the middle was about 5 feet. In those windows, as God is my judge, there were 4 beings, the grays. Wow. 1 in this window, 1 in the other window, and 2 in the middle. But the 3 of them were identical, but the one in the middle was taller by almost a head, and it was lighter in color. What do you think I did? I'm snapping pictures of this. I got pictures. I went like this, and they went like this.
Oh, wow.
And then it tilted back up like this, and in a blink of an eye, 300 feet away. Oh, but it was going, and when it was moving, it was doing this after that, jerking. So I ran back to the Jeep. Now the ridge is real windy like this. So I had to run back and get in my Jeep and go 60 mile an hour to keep up with this thing, which wasn't going 60 mile an hour in the air or 70 or 80 knots. It was probably going about 25 knots. But to keep up with it, I had to do that. So I went down, and it came around a turn like this and disappeared over a hill. At this point, I'm feeling a lot of heat. I was wearing, it was May, like I said, May 30th, 9 p.m. You know, I documented everything. Mm-hmm. I had a baseball cap on, a t-shirt and jeans, like I normally do in the summertime. Everywhere my skin was exposed, including my hair, starting to fall out. My skin was burning and starting to peel off.
Oh my gosh.
So I went, and I took my wife, they were terrified and hysterical. I took them down to my brother Ralph's house. Now, Ralph works for he's been doing it for 50 years himself now. I'm the oldest of my brothers and sisters. But anyhow, he had a big camcorder. And you remember these old great big ones they had? Well, I told him what happened. He said, John, I got to get you to the hospital. But I said, let's go back up first. So he grabbed 3 fully charged batteries with his big camcorder, and we went back up in the Chevy Silverado Blazer. We go up, and we don't see 1 UFO. We see 3. Oh my God. Identical. One here, and another one in a triangular shaped formation. Wow. When he started filming, we got 5. I have these on film too. 5 seconds of film. The battery died in the first one. He puts another one in, 3 seconds. He puts the third one in, and then the battery dies and the lights go out on the vehicle. And then the one at the top goes straight up, and this one goes this way, and this one goes this way. Okay, so the next day, I told my co-investigator, and we went up with full radiation gear on. Now, my friend is a radiation expert. He works for, he has a security clearance with the government, and he's a radiation expert. As I said, he designs, builds reactors for atomic subs. I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to get him in trouble. No. But anyhow, So we go up with a Geiger counter, full radiation gear, rubber boots, gloves, and radiation bag. So we go up behind where it was on the ground. It was on the ground. We go up, and it's hidden behind trees. There's a big field up there, and you can't even see it from the road. Mm-hmm. When we go up, we found a big circle. Now, at the time, I was a site supervisor for an environmental company, so I'm well-trained in environmental stuff. Okay, I managed 128 people. I have something called a soil compaction device. What it does, it tells you the estimated weight of something by the depth of the imprint. When I checked it out, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm going to say this anyhow. It estimated a weight of 30 tons, 60,000 pounds. Okay, because it went right off the scale. But when we stuck the Geiger counter, the Geiger counter actually went into the red immediately, about 150 times higher than background radiation. Whoa. There's radiation everywhere right now in the world, okay? But higher than background, so it was lethal. So and our badges turned red instantly. So we stepped back out of it. So we watched till the Geiger counter started dropping down to a more tolerable level, and we went back in. When we did, the plants that were around weren't broken, they were melted. Wow. Now, the other thing is I had a tape recorder. I'm going to tell you something about it. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. But there are real crop circles in the world, okay? Mm-hmm. The way to tell a real crop circle is, I just gave you one reason about the melted plant.
The melted,
right? The depth of the imprint indicated the weight. And also, if you take a tape recorder and you stick it into where there's a real crop circle, you'll hear a high-pitched whistling sound generally.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that, but right. So anyhow, so when we checked that out, that was great. Now, I measured the width of the circle, 50 feet. Now, what's strange about that, we base our numerical system on feet and inches, correct? This was exactly 50 feet in diameter. So strange, right? Don't you think? 50 feet. Why not 51 feet or 50 feet and a half inch, but exactly 50 feet, excuse me. So we went back and reported to our director about it, told him about it and stuff. And anyhow, so they wanted to come up the next time, and there was 13 of us go up from the group. Now, everybody in the group at the time was in some kind of professional regimen. One lady I was with worked for KDK in Pittsburgh. Okay, and there was a police officer, his wife was a psychic, and some others. There's like 13 of us. Now, where we set up, we shouldn't have done it, but it's not really ethical, but we did it anyhow. One of the places on this ridge, which is 4.5 miles long, is a cemetery. The only one I've ever seen of its kind. It's a church with a cemetery built around it outside. And there's a bell tower outside too. So everything's outside. So we set up in the back there with our cameras and electromagnetic field detector. So I left a good walkie-talkie there with one of the guys who was a police officer, and Evelyn and I drove down the road in my Jeep toward where the thing was. I didn't see anything going down, but coming back, Evelyn was on the right side of my Jeep. She spotted an identical UFO hovering over an empty old barn. So I tried radioing ahead to let them know it was heading their way. Well, at that point, no one saw anything, but Evelyn saw it first than I. Now, later on that week, okay, I got a call from my director that there was a place near Mingo Park, which is in Washington County, PA, where there's a circle on the ground. Now, just so you know, there's high tension towers, and I use a topographical map to measure where I saw the UFO on the ground, lifted up, and where the one that was on the ground in Mingo Park at a horse boarding place of all places, okay? So I go down there with Evelyn. It was in the summertime at this point, and all the horses would stay away from this area. The ground was gray. I have pictures of this too. I have about 10 pictures of this, and me standing in the middle of it. Nothing grew there. It just turned completely gray. But the UFO that was there was on the same track as the high tension towers, which was maybe 15 miles away. So it went down there. All their cats disappeared too. Every cat they had. And you usually have cats in barns that keep company for horses. So we've had a rash of UFO sightings. So, but I have these pictures. Anyhow. So I go back up. Now, we used to meet every Wednesday at our director's house. And we have maybe 300 people in the group, but maybe 30 would show up, 20 to 30 at the time. So I'm sitting in there and stuff, and we're watching a video about scoop marks of all things. I really never noticed scoop marks on me for some reason, but I always had instances of missing time. Always. I just thought, well, maybe I don't know. Anyhow, so I'm sitting there next to Evelyn. There's maybe 10 or 12 people in the room. We're watching a video about scoop marks, and Evelyn looks at my wrist and says, "John, you have one on your wrist." Oh, wow. So anyhow, that led to looking. I found the other one on my ankle, the identical. So I went to the doctors, and the doctor asked me what happened. I said, "I don't know. You tell me." He says, "I've never seen anything like it." And he said, "It damaged your vein on your wrist." Now, I don't do drugs. I don't even smoke. I rarely take a drink. Okay, I had a glass of wine New Year's Eve with my wife. That was it. But anyhow, so Stan, our director at the time, set up a hypno-regressionist to take and put me under hypnosis and demo. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyhow, so before that though, Devin and I went up there. Now, we were going up every weekend to these places, okay? And we parked by this church I just told you about because it's got a great vantage point of the valley and everything around, big clear view of the sky. So we're sitting there in my Jeep, and Devin says to me, John, do you want a sandwich? I said, what do you got? His wife had made him some bologna sandwiches and with mustard. Now, the reason I say this, because at the time I didn't like mustard. So it was in a plastic bag. So I set it on the dash. Like, okay, I might eat it later on. Who knows? But anyhow, so Devin looks across maybe 500 feet away to my left. Now I'm the driver. Were 3 orbs in the tree, oblong orbs. So we're looking at this. That's the last thing we remember. We woke up maybe 2 hours later, completely disoriented, you know, and we didn't know what the heck happened. So anyhow, moving ahead, Stan set up this thing with the hypno-regression. So I go up to, I believe it was Versailles, or maybe it was Venetia. I can't remember exactly, it's so long. Anyhow, so I go up and they put him up. Now, Devin and I weren't allowed to talk to each other, so we wouldn't cross-contaminate each other with anything, okay? Or put any ideas in each other's head.
Yeah.
So the lady that did this took Devin in, got him under real fast. I wasn't allowed to talk to him. He left. I go in. Now, they videotaped all this stuff. When I went in, it took them about an hour to get me under.
Oh.
Because I guess I have a really strong will. My wife will tell you I'm very willful, very strong will. Anyhow, so when I got under it, the things I told the woman scared her so much, she swore she'd never do this again.
Oh my goodness.
So anyhow, I had a panic attack, by the way, when I was going up there. I didn't know why at the time, but I know now why. But anyhow, I managed to do it, got it done. So then they set up another regression with a retired city of Pittsburgh police officer who's a forensic expert in hypno-regression and enhancing victims and witnesses' memory. They took me up. It took my sister-in-law and my wife went with me. It took him about an hour to get me under, and to test me, he made my arm go up like this and made it. He said, "Now you have a steel rod for arm," and they were leaning on, couldn't move it.
Wow.
What I told him scared him, and when he got done with me, he told our director, my wife, my sister-in-law, and I that you're the real deal. Now, I don't care if people believe me or not. I really don't care. It's 71 and a half. I hate to put it quite this way, and I know you have a very selective audience in some ways, but they can kiss my good hunky, you know what?
Yeah.
Okay? For all I care. I don't care. I'm not in this to please anybody other than myself and to help people understand what to deal with. Because there's a lot of people who deal with this and they're afraid to come forward.
Right.
Anyhow, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, I want to tell you this. I've been a victim of multiple abductions since I was very young. 30, 40 or more, I guess. I'm not sure. Wow. There were times where I was in bed. I remember one time I saw a blue light, and that's the last thing I remember in my bedroom. I woke up. It was in November. I wake up, my wife starts yelling at me. I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "Look at your feet." I had wet leaves on my feet. I don't walk outside in the wintertime with my bare feet. Or November. It was November. So this happened a lot, and I kept getting drawn to this area. Now, when I told you about being parked at the church with Devin, that night when he saw the orbs first, I call them orbs, they're more like oblong. There was a UFO up there, all right, not in front of us, behind us in the field, behind some trees.
Wow.
What I said under hypnosis, what he confirmed under hypnosis as well, is they came to the car and took us out. There were 5 of them. They were parked on the ground behind us, maybe 100 feet off the road. They escorted him with 3, because he's bigger than I am. He's 6'6.5", 660 pounds. I'm 6'4", at the time I weighed 240. I was in really good shape. I'm not bad shape now for my age. I mean, what the heck? Anyhow, so what I remember is them taking him up the ramp, and they were mad at me because they told me not to bring anybody, but they don't talk. They can, but they don't talk. When they get within 10 feet, they can communicate. And I hate to use the word telepathy, but I'm going to use it telepathically.
Yeah. What else? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they walked him up the ramp, one in front, one on either side. He went in. Now, when you walk into this craft, you see a wall that's kind of round like this. You can't go further. You have to make a right and go up these stairs up to the top of the cupola. Anyhow, so I walked up and I stopped. There was one on either side of me, and I put my hand on the side of their ship, and I went like this and looked, And when I did, I saw, looked like laminated, like 3 or 4 layers. And the ship was warm. That I remember. The ramp sounded like I was walking up a wooden ramp, but it wasn't wood. So I walked inside and I went up the steps, which were very narrow, went up to the cupola, and built into the wall was like a very low, I guess a bench of some type, and it curved around the cupola. Okay, cupola. Keep saying it wrong. But anyhow, so they told me they were very angry with me, very upset with, not angry, upset with me. I shouldn't have brought anybody. Anyhow, so they had me get on the table, and I remember laying on a table, my clothes were off. I was completely naked. And I remember looking up, there was 4 standing around me and 1 watching my friend. When I looked up, there was like a black circle above me, and it opened up, and now it's above me. I remember seeing the ground receding away from me. So it was up, I was in the air. Devin and I were in the air. Now, I was gone. All I remember is they told me, I asked them about the mark on my wrist. I could talk, but I couldn't move. They said they had saved my life. There was something wrong with my blood. Now, as I told you before, or I haven't mentioned it yet, I developed cancer from this. A very, very, almost killed me.
Oh, wow.
Okay. From standing under that light of the one I talked about. When all my hair fell, I need to digress a little bit. That night after that sighting, my brother took me to the old hospital, which we're not far from where we live. He said, what are you going to tell these people? Because all my hair was falling. My skin was peeling off everywhere.
Gosh.
And he says, you can't tell them you got zapped by a flying saucer. I said, I told them I fell asleep under an ultraviolet light. They said, I don't know. So we go up. They finally got me in the emergency room. The doctor looks at me and says, so John, what happened? I said, I fell asleep under an ultraviolet light. Popped his head and went, you're going to stick with that story? I said, yeah. He shook his head, and they took care of me. They gauzed me up and everything else. It took me about a week to get skin back, okay, but I was all peeled off. But I wasn't feeling good after. I had a very upset stomach. So I was, anyhow, moving forward, I'm just going to jump around here. Years later, I fought cancer for almost 9 years. I went to Hillman Cancer Center here in Pennsylvania at Washington Hospital. And my oncologist just so happens to be a UFO witness himself. And he said to me that I was exposed to some type of ionizing radiation. Wow. Okay. So it hurt me. I was on almost stage 4 cancer. They gave me double doses of radiation to help kill it. Plus I was on, for 6.5 years, I was taking a type of chemo that made all my hair, on other parts of me fall off, and it caused me all kind of problems. It was a hormone-based chemo. Anyhow, so this is what I remember. Now, let me tell you something. If you and I are talking right now, I can see both your faces. I can read from your expressions what you're thinking and feeling to an extent, as you can mine.
Right.
Okay. I don't have to make this stuff up. It's all factual stuff. Okay. Anyhow, by the same token, when somebody or something's talking to you mind to mind, they can read what's everything in my mind. They have a stronger mind than me. I have 165 IQ. So I'm not stupid. I'm not bragging. I'm telling you straight.
Just a fact.
They're very smart compared to me. But when they open my mind up to see what my fears and whatever it was inside me, they open the door about that much to theirs. They're not here for good. I admire Whitley Strieber immensely for his book, Communion, and all that, and what he went through. But they lied. They lied. The Greys are not here to help us. They're here for their own agenda. Now, you've seen the movie Independence Day where the aliens come down in mass and they destroy this and all that. You don't need it. If you're that advanced, and by their mind, what I saw in their minds was their civilization's about 5 million years older than ours. 5 million years. Wow. As human beings, we're barely, 200,000 years old as even the most rudimentary human being. 5 million years. And I also admire Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan. And they say, well, the interstellar distances are so vast it would take them forever to get here. They've already made the trip. Okay? Right. They made the trip thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago. I wouldn't doubt that they had something to do with the extinction of the dinosaurs so the mammals could arrive.
Oh, wow.
Simply by taking and steering. You don't have to use ray guns or any of that nonsense. Steer an asteroid or two into the Earth's atmosphere. That'll take care of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, so they are here. I'll tell you what I believe they're here for. They're here for a hybridization program. You've heard this a million times, I'm sure. They'll win from within.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're here. They're not here for any other reason. We're just nothing more than we are, like ants are to us.
Mm-hmm.
Or genetic material. They've taken people before. There was a town, I believe it was in Canada, where an entire town of Eskimos were taken and disappeared when the Northwest Mountain, the mounted police went up there to check on the village every month. The whole village was gone. Food was on the table. Graves were opened up. Everything was taken. Mayan civilization disappeared. Where these, 16,000 people a year, or 16,000 people so far in Alaska have disappeared. Mm-hmm. You can attribute some of that to accidents and things. People aren't trained to go walking in the wilds. I mean, it's pretty wild up there. 16,000. There's more people disappear there than the Bermuda Triangle, for crying out loud. Now, people talk about USOs as well, unidentified submersible objects. Mm-hmm. Submarines have recorded on their radar or sonar objects moving at sonic speed, supersonic speeds underwater. Mm-hmm. We can't do that. Our best submarines maybe 45, 47 miles an hour? Yeah. Knots or whatever underwater. Mm-hmm. So these creatures too, I want to tell you this. What I saw too about their world was they come from a world with a red star, like a red giant.
Oh.
Their planet is in the habitable zone, but there's a red giant, but it's further out. They live underground mostly. Their eyes are large to gather more light. Now, everybody on Earth here is a product of our environment, based on the gravity, the amount of sunlight we have, those type of things. Okay, our eyes would be bigger if we had less sunlight, right? Mm-hmm. We have melanin in our skin to protect us from the sun, right? They don't. Mm. Now, there's what I also got from the abductions I've been on is these creatures have an hierarchy. And what I mean by that, just like ants or bees or wasps, there's a queen, there's something in between, there's something after that, and then I believe that the small grays are a construct, bioengineered construct. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're small, but they're very strong for their size. They may weigh 15 pounds, 16 pounds at the most. Mm-hmm. But what I saw was there's something above them, what people describe as a mantis-like creature. But there's something above that, and there's something above that. I'm not sure what, okay, because that was it. Mm-hmm. But I want to tell you this. Now, I myself am abductee, and I'm not I have no reason to make this up because I'm sure people are going to say, you're full of baloney, you're nut, whatever.
No, not on this show, because we've talked to abductees several. And
oh, yes, absolutely.
And you know what? And it's like, why are people saying the same exact thing? It's not like y'all are getting together, and exchanging notes secretly, or there's like a, a UFO abductee Bible that you're all looking through. This is no. So we get it. Wow.
Well, I got to tell you something that really kind of threw me for a loop. I got a call from our director that there's a lady claimed she was abducted by UFO, and it was maybe 5 miles from my house. So my friend Devin and I went down. It's summertime, and it's not far from that ridge, by the way. And we go down, and he gets out of the vehicle, and the woman comes out. Her husband didn't want to talk to us because he doesn't believe in this stuff. But anyhow, she starts talking to Devin. I'm still in the vehicle. I get out of my vehicle. The minute she sees me, her face turns white. She blanched. Now, Devin's bigger than I am. He's a big guy. He makes me look little, okay, with his weight and everything. He's 3 times my weight, for crying out loud almost. Anyhow, so finally I got to talk to her, and she explained to me, she says, John, I know you. I said, what do you mean? I said, you seen me in town or what? She goes, no, you were with them. I went, what? She says, when they took me, you were helping them. You were trying to calm me. I went, what? Goodness. Now, I want you to know, so far, 3 psychics that I trust. They're in groups I'm in, by the way, and I just don't join any group, just so you know.
We get it. Mm-hmm.
3 psychics have said to me, John, you're not quite human.
Oh.
Now, I don't look anything like my brothers or sisters. My next tallest brother is maybe 5'10", 180 pounds.
Wow.
They're all blonde hair, blue eyed. I'm the only one that's 6'4". I'm the only one with dark eyes, and I don't look anything like them. I'm not an adoptee, that I know that. Now, my mom wanted to have a child for 7 years, and she prayed and prayed and prayed. She showed me a picture one day. She says, "Finally, you came 7 years to the day after I prayed for you." And she showed me a picture of a baby she had taken out of a newspaper, and I looked exactly like that baby.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what to make all this, okay? But it's all this kind of stuff fostered my interest in the unknown, okay? I get into everything because there's a vast world out there, and too many people right now, nothing against people to use their cell phones, but too many people are looking at their cell phones and not looking around to see what's going on around them, okay? The only way you're going to find something or see something is if you look. Get out there, get boots on the ground, do something. If you never see anything, at least enjoy the outdoors, okay? As a kid, I was always outdoors. But anyhow, in all my life, like I said, I've seen UFOs 9 times. Now, I got to tell you this one, and I think I mentioned this briefly a while back to you. When I was on Christmas vacation as a sophomore in high school, my dad had bought me, I wanted walkie-talkies. I wanted them so bad. Back then, that's what everybody wanted. Anyhow, so my dad bought me these walkie-talkies, and as I said, he's a police officer. He didn't come home till 11 o'clock at night. This is on Christmas break. About a week into my Christmas break, I'm outside on my walkie-talkie talking to my friend in a place called Long Branch on a walkie-talkie. I'm facing this hillside, which is about 800 feet high, and there's a big barn on top of it. So we're talking for a few minutes, and he signed off, and I was getting ready to turn around and go back in the house, and for some reason I ducked. And when I ducked, I looked up, and this thing came from behind me. Now, I'm going to tell you, God is my right hand to God. Whether people believe in God or not, I do. Or some God. But anyhow, this thing was huge. It was shaped like this. Now, not the traditional triangle. It came down like this and down again. Now, I estimated its size based on the size of that barn on the hill, 800 feet long by 500 feet wide. It stopped right over top me. Now, I don't know why I ducked, because it came from behind me. It came from the north and went to the south, but it hovered over top that barn right above me. I looked up, and it was the light from it was like a fluorescent type of light, so I could actually see the things hanging down underneath of it.
Oh, wow.
Had a big round circle and other things hanging down. So what it did at this point, it ejected a teardrop from the back end of it, a teardrop-shaped object about 150 feet long, which swung down like a pendulum into the hillside.
Oh my gosh.
Then it zipped away. So I'm shook up. I go back in the house. My mom sees I'm white as a ghost. And she says, "What happened?" And I told her, she said, "You're staying up till your dad comes down." So my dad came home. I told him the story. I said, "Dad, let's go up now." He goes, No. We're not going up tonight. It's too late. We'll go up tomorrow." So the only one I told was my brother, my mother, and my brother Frank. So my dad and my brother Frank went up the next day to where the teardrop went to the hillside. The whole hillside was tore up. To this day, it's tore up.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Now, I graduated in 1970, so that should tell you how long ago that was. It was around 1967, 68.
Wow.
Anyhow, but I didn't tell anybody other than these people I just told you. So I go to school, back to school. About 2 weeks after I'm back in school, now we had a lot of college recruiters coming up to see if we wanted to go to college or whatever. It wasn't like it is today where you have to go through security and all this stuff and check in, sign your name. You walk in the office, you have to talk to a kid, and they said, okay. So my principal came up. I don't want to mention his, well, I can, I guess. Strickler Pollock was his name. He's passed away long since. But anyhow, says, "Johnny, there's 2 men to see you, and the only place you can go right now," because I was in study hall at this point, they said, "Go to your home room, because there's nobody in there right now." I said, okay. So I go in. It's deserted. It's at the front of the building. So I go into the room, and I sit, and there's 2 men in a room, both dressed in black suit, black pants, black shoes are real shiny, a black hat, sunglasses, and real pale complexion. So I go in, and I'm thinking, I don't know, I think they're college recruiters. So I sit down in the front seat, and they start grilling me, and I'm thinking they're going to ask me what college I went to. I was going to go, which I did go later on when I graduated. But anyhow, they start grilling me about what I saw that night, that big object. And that shook me up really bad. I didn't know anything about Men in Black at this point. So they start grilling me. Then they got more, and one would start talking, and the other one would finish the sentence like they were the same person. They wouldn't even look at each other. This one would stop, and this one would finish. Anyhow, so now they start saying, you could go to jail for the rest of your life. Prison is what they said, or you could be put to death. You could be held incommunicado. I didn't even know what that word meant at the time. So at this point, my homeroom teacher happened to be walking by. He's dead too now. His name's Pete Petrov. He was our football coach, big guy, about 400 pounds, 6'5". He sees me because of the room, the door is open. He sees me and I'm looking scared, and I look out. So he says, "What's wrong, Johnny?" And I said, "These guys are threatening me." So he walked up to him. He couldn't stop them. You're not allowed to do that. But he said, "What do you want with this young man?" And they didn't say anything. Looked at each other like they were communicating, but didn't say a word. They walked past him. Now he's 6'5", 400 pounds. So I walked behind him. At the time, I was maybe, believe it or not, I was maybe 5'6" to 5'8" at the most, 130 pounds soaking wet. So I'm walking behind Pete. We follow him out the front of the building. They get in a black Lincoln Continental with Air Force plates on the back of it.
Oh, wow.
They got in their car and they sped out of there like their tails were on fire. So everybody's asking me what happened. And I said, I don't know. These guys were. So I told my dad about it when I got home that day. So my dad looked into it to try to find out some more information. We couldn't find out anything. So I'm going to move forward now. That was my first experience with Men in Black. So we got a call from our director years later when I was in this group, and there was a UFO sighting over a place called Census Technologies in Uniontown, PA. Now it's below Summit Mountain, which is the second tallest mountain in our state. This is wintertime. So the state police and the Uniontown police told us about it. They're the ones who reported and told us about it. We stopped at the police station. They told blah, blah, blah. So we decided we're going to go up on the mountain. Now it snowed. I'm in a Jeep, so I don't care. I can go anywhere with this Jeep. And we took telescopes. We took the Q-beam I told you about with a portable power pack and cameras and things like this. So we go up and we sat our equipment up. Now, as we're going up to this place, now at the top of the mountain, there's this church camp called Jamonville Church Camp. It's a really nice church camp for kids. I mean, they got different bungalows and stuff, but it's closed for the winter. On top of this, above this church camp, is the second tallest, I should say, cross in the state, 60 feet tall. It's white. You can see it. If you go up there, you can see like 25 miles away at least. I was just up there about a month ago again with my wife. But anyhow, so we're driving into this church camp area to get to where we want to go. We see a vehicle, a pickup truck in camouflage sitting to the side. So I started getting a bad feeling. And I look as I'm driving by, and Devin looked, and there's two guys sitting there in some type of camo gear. I don't know if it's Army or Marines or whatever. So I said to Devin, now it snows on the ground. There's no other tracks at this point. Keep that in mind. So I said to Devin, we started going around. I said, Devin, I got a bad feeling about this. I said, let me pull off the road. So I drove down into like the woods with my Jeep. About, I don't know, maybe a minute or so later, here comes this truck with its lights off, following my track. Of course, they couldn't fall into the woods. So they just kept going on and on. I'm thinking, something's up here. I don't know what's going on. So we decided we're going to follow through. So we go up and we set our equipment up. Now, there's no moon out that night. It was like an overcast sky, okay? So we're maybe there about, 15 or 20 minutes, and I hear a helicopter. Now, we're looking down on the Census Technology from this mountain, okay? So we're maybe 5 miles away. I hear this helicopter sound. I know what a helicopter sound sounds like. So I'm looking around. I take my Q-beam, I should say, and it's real, like I said, real powerful, and I'm flashing it around like this. I just lifted my light into the air. And what do I see? I see a Huey helicopter, black, running with no lights on. So it's running on FLIR technology, I would assume. Treetop level. On the ground below is a Lincoln Continental. I got a copy. I seen the plates, Air Force plates, 2 Humvees, and 2 troop carrier trucks. They call them deuce and a halves, I guess.
Right.
Going with all their lights off along the ridge. Now, I want to tell you something about that ridge. Chestnut Ridge.
Chestnut Ridge is what people in the chat, and I was thinking, yep.
Right. They call it Pennsylvania's Twilight Zone. All kinds of Bigfoot, UFOs, everything. Cryptids, all kinds of stuff up there.
Yep.
So we got spooked at this point. Now, we got back in the Jeep and we said, we're going to get out of here. So we go down, but instead of going back the way we came in, which is the way the other vehicles went, we decided to go back this way. Now we're following the tracks back, and I look and I see the tracks. There's a fence there with some trees, and there's like a bunker that looks like it goes down into the ground. The tracks came up from there because there's no other tracks past that other than ours at this point. So they came up out of the ground right there. So we went back down, ended up going through Connellsville that way. Now, about 2 days later, a day or two later, I guess, we decided we're going to go up and talk to there's a reserve base up there. We wanted to talk to the colonel in charge of the base. So we tried, and we set up an appointment. We did go up there. We actually got a chance to go in and talk to this guy. And when we first got there, we're talking about, have you seen anything unusual, this kind of stuff. He wanted to know what we wanted. And so I finally said, so Colonel, he was a lieutenant colonel. I says, so where do you keep your black helicopters? And the minute I said that, his whole expression changed. He said, we don't have black helicopters in the military. Well, we know that's nonsense because there's something called the Night Stalkers, which they use. Okay. You know about the Night Stalkers, I'm sure. But so he said, you have to go. So they had us escorted off the base. After that, we started having our mail taken. Now, this is before the advent, basically, of cell phones. So we had the old rotary phones. You remember? I had mine.
Oh, yeah.
So our phones are being tapped. You can hear people, but we don't have party lines like they used to have. Our mail was disappearing, so we decided to make a code up so we could communicate with each other. Anyhow, so Devin and I. Hello?
Oh, it's okay. Was it somebody's? It said Bluetooth connected, or I don't know. It wasn't mine. I don't know. Yeah, weird. Oh, geez. Uh-oh.
Well,
is your line tapped?
Well, here's the thing. After that, I decided to take and go up on the ridge with my friend Devin. That night, my wife said when she came out of the house, now we lived in a small town. There was a helicopter at night hovering over our house.
Oh, my
a black
God.
helicopter.
Wow.
When I got home, she was scared to death. Everybody that lived around that saw it. Later on in the summer, my wife went up to her mother's out in the country with two of our kids, and my boy, John Jr., was with me at home. And I'm in the house doing, I think I was doing dishes or something. And I heard this vibration. Now, we live fairly close to the railroad tracks, so I thought it was a train. I said, John, go outside. John was about 7 at the time. He's a grown man now, got kids of his own, and lives in Kentucky. But anyhow, so he comes running back and, Daddy, there's a helicopter over our house. I went, what? I said, grab the camera. So I ran outside. He comes out over the top of my house, over the tree in my backyard was a black helicopter with a side door open and a man filming.
Oh my goodness.
John comes out with a camera. And as soon as he did that, helicopter took off. Now listen, I can't make this stuff up. This kind of stuff happens.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So, and what I'm trying to say, we've had a bunch of UFOs in that area for a while. A lot of UFOs. Now, I'm going to stop with the UFOs and I'm going to talk about Bigfoot. Okay. And there's a reason. There's a correlation here. Okay. I was on a case in McMurray, PA with my co-investigator for a year. This family, I don't want to mention their names. They lived on McMurray Road. Now, where their house was there's some railroad tracks down below over a hillside. There's a creek and there's a lot of woods. Now they have a development up there. This is back in 1992, 93. Summer times we started our investigation there. We were going there every weekend for a year. So when we first got there, I told Devin, I said, go along the tracks down below and I'll go climb a tree and hide up in the tree with a camera. Got pictures of this too, by the way. I always carry that camera. Anyhow, except when I should have had it. But anyhow. So Devin's telling me we have FM headsets on. So with the throat mic. And the reason we wanted to make sure we could talk very quietly when no one else could hear or nothing else could hear. The thing about going out to the woods for Bigfoot, you got to be quiet. You can't be going around with camera crews and making noise. I mean, I'll get into all this. I hope you'll give me the time tonight because I have a lot to tell you.
Well, we will we're probably going to have, we're probably going to have you back for another show, because this is just incredible. But go on, because we still have time, right? Right,
Yeah,
Grizzly?
go ahead.
Well, I'll try to speed it up. Anyhow, so Devin says somebody's throwing hand-sized, boulder-sized rocks at him.
Gosh.
So he says, now whatever it is heading your way. So I'm up at about 25 feet in this tree, and I look down. This is summertime, and as I look down like this, there's two green eyes looking back up at me. So what do? I shimmy down. I got pictures, by the way. I shimmy down the tree, and it's gone. Well, moving further along, finally, toward the end of our investigation, I'm walking out of the woods. This is in the evening now. This is now winter time. Devin and other people are walking out, and they see a 7.5-foot Bigfoot following me out of the woods. Oh, wow. Okay, follows me right out of the woods. That case was published in Fate magazine, February 1993.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but one of our fellow members. Okay, so people can look that up. Fate magazine, February 1993, 7.5-footer. So we go back. We thought we were done with that investigation because we gave closure to the people who lived there. They weren't crazy. Okay, that's the best you can do as an investigator. You can't. I can't produce a Bigfoot to show the people.
Right.
So the best I can do is give you closure to say I believe you. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyhow, I get back that night with my Q beam and my power pack and my stun gun. I left the camera in the house. When I get in, my wife says the chief of police in the town says they need you to come up California High School Hill, which is approximately 3 miles from where the UFO was. Okay. Now we had a rash of Bigfoot sightings, probably 500 around that time within about 2.5 week period. So I go up there I didn't carry my damn camera, but here's the deal. When I got there on this hill below the high school were 12 police officers from 4 different municipalities and 30 civilians standing on the right side of the road. So I get out and I walked up to the friend who was the chief of police of the one municipality. I said, "What's going on, Charlie?" He goes, "Look up there." So I look up. Now it snowed, but there was no snow on the road, but it was cold. There was snow in the grass. There was a high tension tower there. So I could see something there, but it's about 300 feet off the road. I said, "Well, let's go." I start walking up. Now, the only thing I got is a Q beam and a stun gun. That's it. I start walking up and look behind me. No police officers following. I said, "Well, you guys coming?" They go, "No, look at the size of that thing." I said, "You guys got guns." I don't. I said, "Well, I'm going." So I start, now they're watching me. I'm walking up, and when I got within about 35, 40 feet, I could clearly see what I was looking at was humanoid, very big, very, very big.
Oh my God.
I got closer and closer to it, and I shone my Q beam on it, and leaning against this high tension tower was this creature about 10 feet tall. And when I say 10 feet, I measured later on the next day where it was leaning against the tower. It had its arms crossed, sort of like this, not completely, massive arms, like tree trunks and legs. Stunk up. The first thing I noticed was, other than the size, was the smell. It smelled like dead animals and weeds and grass and earth. And it's looking at me. It's brownish red in color. So I shined a light on it. Now you see renditions on Facebook all the time of Bigfoot looking like a gigantic ape with a bare chest and muscular like the Hulk. No. They don't look like that. They're covered in hair. The only place they didn't have hair was around here, like this. I couldn't see the ears. It did have no sagittal crest like a gorilla either. Its shoulders were wider than my SUV. I have a Ford Escape SUV, 4-wheel drive. This thing, now I do. But this thing's legs were huge. Its feet were covered, the tops with hair, and so was its hands, except the other side of its hands were grayish black in color, as was its face. I shined a light in its eyes, and it had eye shine. But let me tell you something about primates. Primates don't have eye shine. Humans do not have eye shine. Yeah, you can take a picture of it red, but that's different.
Yeah.
But this thing had eye shine, big green eyes, I'd say about a foot apart, at least a foot apart, a huge head. No. So it stood there looking at me, and it's doing this, studying. This is not an animal. I don't care what anybody says. This is not an animal. This is a sentient, self-aware being of some type. And I have my theory of what it is, but I'll get to that in a real quick second. Anyhow, so I'm about 15, 20 seconds. I'm just amazed at what I saw. And I'm shining a light on it.
It's standing there. And it's standing there looking at you and all the police and everybody. Is that what you're saying? It's just standing there.
Right.
Wow.
Everybody, because I lit the area up with that Q beam.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Wow.
So I can light up something 2 miles away with this thing. And in fact, I have it right here. In fact, I can show it to you. But anyhow, it's really bright. Anyhow, so it's looking at me 15 or 20 seconds. Now, the only thing I got to tell you, you know what infrasound is, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Certain animals like tigers use that, elephants, except below human range of hearing. Okay. Now, what I felt from this creature was not anger, animosity, hostility in any way, or fear. What I felt coming from this thing, and it's hard for me to put into words because I felt the vibration in me, was sadness. It was sad.
Oh.
And I don't know why, but so I felt this really strong. And I didn't feel any fear of it whatsoever. I didn't feel I should run for my life. It could have tore me to pieces in a second. I mean, I'm a powerful guy even now. I can lift the front of a car off the ground. I'm not making this stuff up. Okay, I had to show my wife anyhow, but I can do that. And back then I was even stronger. But this thing could have ripped my arms and legs off and flossed its teeth. And by the way, it's an omnivore. And how do I know it's an omnivore? It had canines and it had molars. Okay. So it eats both vegetable matter and flesh. Okay. Now, after that, it put its arms down and I kind of tensed up a little bit. And in 3 steps, it covered 30 feet. That's a 10-foot stride. I'm 6'4". My normal stride is between 26 and 27 inches. A 6-foot man has a 24-inch stride. Okay. So this is gigantic. In 3 strides, it covered 30 feet into the woods. I could hear it crashing through the woods. So I try to keep up with it. But this thing moved faster than any deer I've ever seen, from a dead stop that looked like 60 miles an hour, that fast. Faster than any rabbit I ever saw in my life. I tried to keep up with it, couldn't do it. And of course, the woods are thick and it's crashing through. I got hair samples.
Awesome.
I took them to, so I go back and anybody shook up and stuff. And the cops like, what are you going to do? I said, I don't. But I found hair samples the next day. I took them to our university. And back then they didn't have the DNA technology. They had somewhat, but not like they do today. I took it to an anthropology professor. They checked it out. And what it was, the hair samples were transparent. And they, by the way, they were non-reflective. The light that I shined on it should have shown some type of reflection. It seemed to absorb the light.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right. So, but it said, it came back unknown hominid. Now the tracks in the snow, which are slightly melted out, were 22 inches long, by 8.5 inches wide, by 4.5 inches deep, and indicated a weight of around 1,200 pounds. Now, let me tell you the best part. So I went back home and I was excited and everything else. So the next day I'm out, it snowed and it went down to 20 below zero with a wind chill. I get a call from KDKA News, which is Channel 2 in Pittsburgh, which is the oldest radio and TV station in the nation, from a reporter named Mary Robb Jackson. I'm going to mention her name because she was with me. She said, Mr. Stasko, I understand you're the local investigator for Washington Green and Fayette counties. I said, yes. She goes, we had a sighting in a place called Crescent Heights. She said, would you mind if we came down and hooked you up there? I said, sure. So they came down, picked me up. They had a cameraman, the driver, and her. Mary Robb's 5 foot tall, if that. So we go up. Now, the place we went called Crescent Heights. Crescent Heights is primarily populated by black people. Okay. And they had a church up on top of the hill, isolated away from the town on a Red Dog Road. So it's above the town, but looking down. It's not a big town. It's just a little town out. But anyhow, so we drive up there. There's some people up there, and there's 2 sets of tracks. 2 sets of tracks in the snow. Now, remember how cold it was. So we go up. The first set of tracks is 10 feet apart in a straight line. Human beings walk side to side. Okay. The second set of tracks, now, by the way, the big set of tracks was 22 inches long, which indicated the same animal or creature. Say creature. The second set of tracks was about 18 inches long, 17 to 18 inches long. It's kind of hard to tell with it melted out a little bit. But here's the thing. We tried to jump between the tracks. We couldn't do it. She tried, fell on her butt. I tried, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't even get close. Okay. Even with a running start, I couldn't do that. Anyhow, we followed the tracks to the edge of the hill. And at the edge of the hill, overlooking the town, was 2 sets of butt prints. They had squatted down in the snow looking down into the town.
Oh, wow.
But before that, I went back and I measured the depth of the imprints again. The first set indicated a weight of 1,200 pounds with the soil compaction device I had to measure the depth of the imprint. The second set on one leg was 800 pounds. These are estimates. But here's the kicker. The right foot indicated a weight of around 1,000 pounds. Now, why do you think that is on the smaller set? Carrying something.
Oh.
What's it carrying on the right side?
A baby or a something.
A young one or something.
Yeah, an animal or something. Yeah, maybe a baby.
Wow. Maybe a 200-pound baby.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Wow.
Okay. Now that's pretty big for a human, let alone a baby.
Well, Sasquatch. Yeah, but for a baby, I mean, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I found hair samples, but here's the strange part. The tracks went to the edge of the hill, but I didn't see any tracks leading away from it on either side or down the hill. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? They vanished into thin air. Then I took a closer look at the tracks. They stepped backwards into the tracks. Into the woods. They backtracked in their own footprints.
This is not an
animal. This is a sentient, self-aware creature that knows what's up. Wow. And it walked backwards into the woods, which were full with brush and stuff, so it could disappear into the brush.
Yes.
I found hair samples there too. Guess what I took them to the university. 2 weeks later, came back. Same thing. Unknown hominid. Now, we had a rash of sightings. I had one where there was a priest in Brownsville, PA, called me up and said, John, he says, after we made our introduction, he says, look, around that time, because it was really cold during that week, he says, I put some trash out the night before. I put like 2 or 3 pieces of pizza in a pizza box in my trash. I heard a noise that morning early, and I looked out and I saw these 3 creatures outside rummaging through my trash. And he took the pizza out. Okay. So they foraged. So Mary Robb wanted to do a special for me, but at the time they had this thing called Bigfoot pizza. And the newscasters that night on channels at 6 o'clock started making fun about right after my story they put on about Bigfoot pizza. And I said, well, I'm not doing it because I don't want to be ridiculed.
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time. I was doing this when it wasn't fashionable or entertainment. I was doing this when people were making fun of everybody, putting people down, calling them liars, nuts, hoaxers, etc. Look, I don't put up with nonsense, okay, at all. Back then, we did have some nuts. People were saying they were taking to Venus. If you know anything about astronomy, can't go to Venus. The atmospheric pressure would crush you. Plus, it's about 800 degrees, okay? You can't breathe. There's nothing to breathe up there except methane or bad gases, okay? So, but there are people who were putting all kinds of stuff on their head, calling themselves contactees back then. So there weren't a lot of people involved in this kind of stuff. But I just read some of your stuff from people here. But anyhow, that's okay. I understand, believe me. Yeah. But anyhow, we had a rash of sightings. That same chief of police I told you about said he was driving down Route 43 on a routine check, and he saw a Bigfoot cross from where that was, the 10-foot one was, squatting down, watching people drive by on the highway. Okay? Yeah. We had a lot of sightings. Devin and I went up to Connellsville when Connellsville police called us and said there was a Bigfoot sighting up on the part of that mountain up there, which is also part of the Chestnut Ridge. We went to a stone quarry up there and we found tracks going into this place, but at the top of this gigantic cavern, which is hollowed out, was a hole in the roof. So it must have climbed up there and went through the roof. But it's pretty isolated. The only thing we did scare out of there was a deer went in there. Now this cavern, man-made cavern, was so large you could put the front end of a 747 in there to go in.
Oh wow!
It got progressively smaller as you went to the back. But anyhow, so we investigated hundreds of sightings at this point. I mean, I've investigated over 5,000 cases, but a lot of them came in clumps: UFOs, Bigfoot, that kind of thing. Ghosts, all kind of anomalies and stuff. And I've seen it all, believe me. I even saw a Black Panther in my life twice. Wow. Pennsylvania does have a small Black Panther, about half the size of the American cougar. About 75 pounds, was big enough to kill any dog just about. I saw that one when I was 12 years old delivering newspapers. I did that. It was my first job when I was 12. Wow. But anyhow, so these are just some of the stuff I've talked about and seen. Now I'm going to tell you something about Bigfoot. Bigfoot on the northeast coast, I haven't heard of a real case yet where it's been aggressive to anybody. Now the southern coast of the United States, you have the Bogey Creek monster, the skunk ape. They're fairly aggressive and more territorial. Okay, but there's nothing to my knowledge where any cow has been killed and taken, or any large creature like a sheep or anything else has been killed and taken, because Bigfoot over around here apparently knows that man's capable of tracking him down. Tracking him down. Now, let me move to the west coast, the northwest coast. They are more feral. And they're more territorial because there's less people there. And there's been instances like in the Portlock, Alaska case, where a town had to be abandoned because people were getting murdered and tore to pieces, okay? And they've already substantiated it, and it wasn't a grizzly bear, because grizzlies don't do what these creatures do. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? Now, there's been sightings as far south in South America. I have people in my groups there in South America, Ukraine, Russia, Japan, England. One of my best friends is an astrophysicist in England, Ian Hawkins. He's a good guy. I talk to him almost every weekend. But so this creatures around the world. You have the Yeti, the Yeren, the Yowie, okay, all around the world. And for instance, but it seems like in more isolated cases that the Bigfoot type creatures are in isolated areas are more feral and more territorial and more violent. But the ones that live in the northeastern part seem to have learned to adjust to human habitation. They know what human beings have as far as weapons. They know what guns are. Okay? They know not to touch our cattle or our sheep or anything like that. The ones out west, not so much. Okay? Okay, you've probably heard about the Native Americans who fought off a race of red-haired giants. Okay, yeah. So what I'm getting at, I guess, is to say is I believe these creatures have been around a long time. What I think they're not, I don't think they're descendants of Gigantopithecus, which was a giant ape, which is around 10 feet tall, but it was more of an herbivore. Okay, I don't think it's a descendant of the Denisovans. Okay, I don't believe that either. What I do believe is this, and this is my own theory, which I came up with many years ago. I think they're extraterrestrial in nature.
Okay.
I think they were. Let me tell you something. If you look at the type of creatures we're talking about here, with their build and their ability, they're super strong. They have long, powerful arms, and I'm going to tell you something about that. They've been seen in trees too. Now, why do creatures like that go into trees? 2 reasons: for food and to escape bigger predators. Correct? Think about it. These creatures are arboreal mostly, but they've been seen in the daytime too. They have large eyes. I think they see in infrared and maybe different color spectrums, because we see in a very narrow spectrum. Okay? They have super hearing, super strength. They don't get exhausted. I was asked one time by this reporter, what do you think their range is? I said 60 miles at least.
Wow.
And the reason I say it, because a human being could go, a healthy human being could easily go 20 miles in a day. Our military can do that. They go on hikes for that. Okay? So a creature that's 4 or 5 times the size of a human being could. Now, I want to say this too. There's been reports of Bigfoot type creatures 15 to 20 feet tall. I don't buy that. I think if somebody sees a creature 8 to 9 to 10 feet tall, they're going to exaggerate the height because they're going to be in such fear or awe or surprise. Okay. I don't believe they're going to get that big. Maybe 10, 12 feet max. I believe the smaller Bigfoot, 6 to 7.5 feet, like we saw in McMurray, are juvenile. Okay. Which do create mischief. Okay. But these creatures are from somewhere else. They have large eyes so they can see at night. And these shows that you see on TV, and I don't want to mention these shows because for me, they're entertainment value, but I have to shake my head when I watch them. You got first of all, you got a bunch of guys out there with guns hunting a Bigfoot. Let me ask you a question. If you went out to hunt a tiger and you wounded a tiger, but you didn't kill it, what do you think is going to happen the next time it encounters a human being?
Yep, they're gonna be out for blood. They're gonna kill you.
Right. Not only that, but they can't hunt other creatures. So they're going to be more aggressive. They're going to hunt weaker prey. Human beings are weaker prey. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you wound a Bigfoot. It looks at all human beings as the same.
Right.
What do you think it's going to do to a human being? This thing's more powerful than a gorilla, twice the size of a gorilla.
Yeah, looks, yep.
It's going to tear you to pieces. I don't add, no, I think it's Colorado has a bounty on it. Is it Colorado? I think they have $1 million bounty if you kill a Bigfoot.
Oh, I don't know. It does it? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't ascribe to that, because to me that's murder.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a sentient, intelligent creature. It has a rudimentary form of language. It does use tools because it's been seen using a stone axe, basically a stone, to crack mussel cells up in Alaska, mussel shells to eat. It knocks on woods. It makes warnings. It turns some trees upside down, sticks them in the ground. It makes shelters.
Yes.
Okay. So this is an intelligent creature. Now, what it is, I don't know. I mean, I've been on other cases too. When I mentioned the extraterrestrial connection, I've been on cases where I've talked to people that have seen a UFO on the ground or hovering, and a Bigfoot in close proximity, or going into or coming out of a UFO. What's the connection? I believe there's a connection, a correlation, and I'll tell you what I think, my own opinion. Again, people can believe what everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
During the Pleistocene era, when they had megaflora and megafauna, the giant ground sloth, which is 20 feet tall, the saber-toothed tigers and lions, the giant hyenas, the dire wolves, and these types of creatures. If you were, say, the Great, and you wanted to explore a planet, but you were tiny, and you didn't want to take the chance to come down here and get eaten or just killed, what would you do? You would bring something else down here to help, to do it exploring for you. Maybe they brought these creatures from another world, an arboreal type of world like the Pacific Northwest is, okay? And then these creatures slowly migrated to the east, okay? So, and some decided to stay, some decided to go, some decided to still work with these creatures. I don't know. These are all hypotheses that I've come up with. What I think in my heart is this: these are living, sentient, self-aware beings of some type. I don't believe they're indigenous to this planet. Whether they be extraterrestrial or, I'll make a stretch here, interdimensional. People say that they can vanish at will. Maybe they use portals. I don't want to get into all that, because it's like, I try to stick to the scientific method. Okay. When I do my investigations, I proceed from with a skeptical but open mind. Because I've talked to some people which are nutcases. I really have. I mean, I've talked to people who lied about UFO sightings or stuff. They went through 15 minutes of fame or whatever. So, and maybe about 80% of the cases or so I've debunked is one of those things: misidentifications, lying, hoaxing, whatever. We have people in some of these groups now that classify themselves as experts, and they come up with all these stuff. Look, I have a friend, by the way, and ECBRO, who's he's an ex-military guy, and he talks about PTSD associated with UFO sightings, abduction, and Bigfoot, and other type of things. And I believe that people get traumatized by that.
I believe that.
And there's two ways you can proceed from this. You can either suck it up and start looking for answers, okay? Which just so you know, every rabbit hole I go down, I find myself in another rabbit hole.
Yes.
That's just the way it is. And as I said earlier, the best kind of closure I can give to you, any of you, are, I believe you. You saw what you saw, okay? And try to read up more on it. But I can't produce anything tangible to these people that have seen these or had these experiences. So I do the best I can, you know, and I, like I said, over 5,000 different types of cases. I mean, and like I said, a lot of them came in what they call flaps for UFOs, things of this nature. I saw another UFO when I was about 15 years old in the summertime. I was out of school at that point on my vacation, and we were playing on that sleigh dump, playing baseball. And across from us, maybe a half a mile away, is a river, and then another hillside, and then it curves around like this. Anyhow, so I'm up to bat, and this is broad daylight, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's about 30 of us up there playing. And my friend says, "John, look at that, a meteor." This thing came in horizontal.
Oh my goodness.
Like this. Didn't come in on an angle like a meteor would. It came in horizontal. But here's the kicker. Everybody's saying it's a meteor. It was about the size of a car. It was white, and there's orange and red, orange and green stripes or sparks coming off the back. When we got to this, to avoid another hill that was going this way, it made a turn, a right angle turn. And so that was published in Brownsville Telegraph, and they used to call me Young Scientist Stasko because they asked me what I thought it was.
Wow.
I thought it was a probe of some type. So, but anyhow, what I'm getting, I could go into a lot more here and stuff. I just touched upon a lot.
We're definitely going to have you again, John, because people are, the people in chat are saying, oh my gosh, have him back, because they have a lot, they're super interesting subject, very, oh wow, you're so knowledgeable and so, broad range. I have a question, because I'm living in the Pacific Northwest now in the state of Washington, but I'm a Pennsylvania girl, born and raised. And I saw a UFO back in, I know it was March. And now I lived in Columbia County. So it's, that would be southwest, I believe, of Wilkes-Barre. Okay. In Berwick, actually. And so it was March, and I want to say 1975. Do you recall any? Because this was like a big, like a cigar shaped UFO.
I do remember something about that, and also about giant triangles too, and from New York.
I remember, because I could feel the vibration over my house. It was I could feel that. Yeah. And it was cigar shaped. It had lights on, around the bottom, and it was in the like newspaper and everything. But you try to do research on that sort of stuff now. You can't find anything.
Well, here's the thing. I hope you don't mind, but can I mention the groups I'm in?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Before we close it up. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm in Sasquatch Odyssey, run by Brian King Sharp. He's a retired police officer. I'm an admin and group expert there. Okay. I'm in Paranormal Odyssey. I did several interviews on both of those. I'm in Bob Lazar and Beyond, run by John Lanigan, up in Saint Sault Marie, Canada. And I'm an expert and group, an admin in that group. We talk about Bob Lazar and his stuff. And we have a lot of members. And I'm in Agents of the Unexplained, run by Bill Rigby.
Oh, Bill, yep. And
I'm also in ECBRO as an admin and a group expert run by Dan Benoit. Mm-hmm. Now, May 25th, this year coming, I'll be doing with others and some people from British Columbia, Canada, Myths and Monsters Festival up in Somerset and Bakersville. Okay. And but these are the groups I'm primarily in. Okay. Although I'm in Giorgio Toklas group, the Ancient Aliens as well. That one, and the Skinwalker Ranch thing. But I don't get into. I've been invited to all these other groups, but again, I don't. There's a lot of groups that they're entertainment value. Mm-hmm. Every noise you hear in the woods. I want to say this to the people listening right now before we close this up. Just because you hear a noise in the wood doesn't make it Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. If you hear trees crashing, doesn't make it Bigfoot. Trees crash all the time in the woods. And sometimes they look like they make shelters. If you're out in the woods, I don't advise you going alone. Mm-hmm. Make sure you take a set up for plaster casts. Make sure you look for hair samples and fecal matter. Okay, get some DNA. Okay, of some type. But listen, there's this one show I get a kick out of. This one guy that runs this group. I'm not going to mention his name. You probably know who I'm talking about. Every noise he hears in the wood, and his associate is Bigfoot. There's one woman in the group who I think she's a biologist. She's the skeptic of the group until she sees one. Well, listen, I don't, it's not that I believe they exist. I know they exist. I know UFOs exist. I know aliens exist because I've seen them. Mm-hmm. And so have others. And with every case I've been on, I've had multiple witnesses and or pictures. Okay. Mm-hmm. So again, what I don't understand is long time ago, I talked to Fred Saluga, who's a friend of mine. He's a MUFON director in West Virginia. Okay. And I put up on a poster recently that I contacted MUFON years ago about the UFO case. No one ever got back to me. My case is every bit as important, if not more so, than the one in Sirocco, New Mexico, where the police officer saw one landed on the ground and a couple aliens walking around. Mm-hmm. Or the Cash Lantern case where the women were hit with some type of radiation. It was a diamond-shaped object. Yeah. I don't get it. The only way I'm going to be silenced is somebody kills me. I fought cancer. Almost killed me. I fought COVID 3 times. I fought blood clots 2 years ago when I had a hip replacement. By the way, the chemo and the radiation destroyed my hip. So I have part bionic, and I'm getting ready to go in March for a knee replacement for the same reason, destroyed my knee. The calcium was just pulled out of my body. Anyhow, so I don't understand why. I'm not trying to make more of myself, because I've been asked to write a book. My friend Ian, who volunteered to ghostwrite it for me and stuff, I don't have the time. Like I said, I'm out. Eventually my cases are going to be turned over probably to somebody I trust very well to continue my work. I may never get the answers I want. You're both much younger than I am. You may never get the answers you want, but I applaud you and people like you for putting the word out.
Thank you.
Because I don't want to get on a podcast where people are negative trolling. If you don't believe in it, get out of the group.
That's definitely what we say. Exactly.
And if I catch you doing that in my groups that I run, you're booted and permanently. Okay. Right. I don't play that.
I agree.
People, let me tell you something else too. A little known statistic. Over 600 people daily and nightly are taken worldwide, abducted, that we know about. How many more are not?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The people
don't know that they are. People that don't know that they are. There's, they don't.
Right. I want to say one other thing too. Years ago, I had a scan done on my belly. I have a implant right here on my belly.
Oh, I was going to ask you that. Yes. Wow.
I have one right on my belly. Now, some people have it in their ears and some have it in their noses. And the thing is, I'm going to tell you something about abductees. A lot of abductees have problems with their nasal passages because the bone is broken to go up in there.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So there, your ears, anywhere on your body. Okay. Now, what do I think those things are? We put little tracking devices in animals, don't we?
Yeah.
By the way, the aliens follow family. They follow family.
Oh, okay.
For generationally.
Okay? Wow.
And I know you want to get going here. I know you have others to talk.
Oh no, I just do you think that there's a correlation between like your type of blood, like RH?
I have RH negative blood.
Okay.
Nobody else in my family has RH negative blood.
Yeah. All right.
Nobody.
I do, and that's and I don't.
Good indicator. 3% of the population worldwide has it.
Oh yeah.
You're one of 3% worldwide.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, these are things. I mean, look. Yeah. And somebody also asked, do they believe that aliens are living among us? Yeah, I believe it.
Oh wow.
More than one race too. Now they talk about the reptile. I could get into all that. But.
Yeah, we are definitely after the show. I'll get with you, John, and we'll schedule you to come back on because you just have so much information. We love.
And don't forget at 8:00, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Skinwalker
Ranch. Yeah.
With our new co-host Mark. So
awesome.
Thank you, John, once again.
Well, Grizzly, I didn't get too much of a chance to talk because I run my mouth. I was telling Barbara when I had a conversation.
I'm telling you, we have met. I have actually interviewed you before.
Well, now it makes me wonder if you weren't abducted, Grizzly, and he was a part of it,
Because I text Barb, I'm like, I already know all your stories.
This is
Well, wow. I mean, I've talked to I can talk for days. Trust me, my wife will tell you. I mean, I've been talking now since 5:30 at 7:02.
But he's got
But listen, I'm going to tell you something about abductees too. Sometimes abductees, especially women, are taken to shown where their babies were taken out of them. Okay, they're taken back to meet their children. Men do too.
Okay.
Men, I remember the Betty and Barney Hill case, really good. The Interrupted Journey. It's a great book. You need to read it and stuff. That's not the first abduction case though.
No, but we do have
modern era.
Grizzly has another show coming up, so I'm sorry. It's terrible to have to cut this off.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you both, and we'll do this again.
We'll get in contact with you. And
I'll stay on the line though.
Okay.
Take care. Nice.
Bye-bye.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not a chipmunk? Action. No, I'm out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just gonna sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!